WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar, 7 p.m. in Abuja. Good evening and welcome to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide on wadr.org. Here are the top stories. President Mahama advocates for deeper diplomacy to strengthen regional ties as ECOWAS launches 50th anniversary celebrations.
The recent decision by Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger to withdraw from ECOWAS is a regrettable development. Yet, even in this, continuous engagement must remain our lodestar.
Togo approves a new action plan for national decentralization policy. Authorities in Burkina Faso fall another coup attempt.
The intelligence services have monitored the maneuver that should come to fruition, according to the terrorist plot.
And late Pope Francis to be laid to rest on Saturday, April 26. Details of these stories and more coming up shortly.
Here is Abdullahi Hassan with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast and a warm welcome to our listeners within the sub-region and beyond. Newslink begins in Ghana as President John Dramani Mahama has urged West African leaders to use the 50th anniversary of ECOWAS as a pivotal moment to recommit to the principles of diplomacy, unity and regional integration, particularly in light of the recent withdrawal of 3 member states. Speaking at the launch of ECOWAS at 50 celebrations in Accra, President Mahama described the occasion not just as celebration, but as a solemn moment of reflection and an invitation to deepen the legacy of bold diplomatic engagement that birthed the community in 1975. From Accra, Nadir Tete reports.
At the launch of ECOWAS's 50th anniversary in Accra on Tuesday, President John Dramani Mahama described the event as more than a milestone but a turning point for diplomacy in West Africa, acknowledging the challenges facing the sub-region, including violent extremism, political instability, and growing insecurity in the Sahel. President Mahama said these threats call for even stronger solidarity and a renewed investment in dialogue and mediation rather than isolation or reproach. Addressing the recent exit of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger from ECOWAS, President Mahama described the development as regrettable but not irreversible. He emphasized the importance of sustained diplomatic engagement with the Sahelian nations.
In moments like these, diplomacy and solidarity must remain our first and strongest line of defense. The recent decision by Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger to withdraw from ECOWAS is a regrettable development. Yet, even in this, continuous engagement must remain our lodestar. Since assuming office as president, I've prioritized diplomatic re-engagement with our Sahelian neighbors. Ghana has appointed a special envoy to initiate high-level conversations with the Alliance of Sahel States.
He said Ghana was willing to serve as a bridge to rekindle West Africa unity and reaffirmed the belief that unity, though difficult, remains the surest path to shared prosperity and regional stability. In a speech read by the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs for Nigeria, Bianca Odumegu Ojukwu, on behalf of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is also the chairman of the Authority of ECOWAS Heads of State and Government, President Tinubu said ECOWAS must strive towards improving the lot of its citizens.
Too many of our citizens still live in poverty. Too many of our children lack access to quality education. In this new chapter, we must reimagine ECOWAS as not just a community of states, but a community of people. We must place our young, dynamic, creative, and resilient people at the center of our agenda.
Founded on May 28, 1975, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, was created to foster regional integration by aligning policies, sharing resources, and uniting efforts to tackle the common challenges facing West Africa. For WDR, Nadiri Tete, Accra.
Still in Ghana, the presidency has suspended the Chief Justice Gertrude Tokorono. This follows the establishment of a committee to investigate petitions against the top judicial official. The move, announced in a statement from the government, is in compliance with constitutional provisions and follows consultations with the Council of State. The President cited Article 146, Sub 6 of the Constitution, which mandates the establishment of a committee to probe allegations against a superior court judge if a prima facie case is established. Here is Government Communications Minister Felix Kwakye-Ofosu.
Article 1466 of the 1992 Constitution. It requires the President to consult the Council of State in the process to determine whether, on the face of the petition, there is any reason to proceed further for the Chief Justice to answer any questions. In doing so, the President rightfully requested the Chief Justice to present responses after she had been served with copies of the petition. The Chief Justice did this. The President then went back to consult the Council of State, determine whether, when you set the responses of the Chief Justice against the allegations contained in the petitions, those petitions are frivolous or they merit further scrutiny. After the consultation process, it emerged more questions that have to be answered, and that the petition is not frivolous on the face of it. Now, I must stress, and it is with great emphasis that I stress this, that the President has not by this step that the Chief Justice is guilty of any offense or any of the claims contained in the petition. The President is only enjoined by law, after having determined prima facie, to set up a committee to look into the allegations and offer the Chief Justice every available opportunity to answer to these claims in detail.
Felix Kwakye-Ofosu is Ghana's Communications Minister.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
As a reminder, we stream live on wadr.org. Authorities in Burkina Faso have announced that they had foiled another coup attempt. A statement delivered by the Minister of Security on Monday night revealed that the operation was orchestrated from Côte d'Ivoire. It reportedly involved several Burkinabe military officers, both in the country and in exile in Abidjan. According to the authorities, the final assault was planned for Wednesday, April 16th. Augustine Colley has the rest of the details.
Several military officers are mentioned in this statement read by the Minister of Security. In particular, Lieutenant Abdurrahman Bari, a deserted member of the military justice system, is presented as the mastermind of the operation. He allegedly contacted soldiers and volunteers for the defense of the fatherland with a view to plotting a coup.
The intelligence services have monitored the maneuver that should come to fruition. According to the terrorist plot, on Wednesday, April 16, 2025, a NASO follows the presidency of Faso by a group of soldiers recruited by the enemies of the nation.
According to the authorities, the operation was jointly prepared in Ouagadougou and Abidjan by serving officers and others in exile, particularly Côte d'Ivoire. And in preparation for the April 16 assault, information was reportedly given to terrorists to plan attacks.
Sensitive information has been passed to terrorists in order to identify attackers against combat forces and civilians with the aim of inciting revolt against the authorities. Additionally, other strategies have been developed to mislead intelligence services in order to prompt them to make mass arrests within the defense and internal security forces, hoping to create frustrations and a sense of fear.
According to Minister Sanya, the mastermind was imprisoned along with several other individuals. He announced that the Burkinabe intelligence services would continue their investigations into the coup attempt.
A report filed in by WADR's Ouagadougou correspondent Martin Kaba and voiced in our studios by Augustine Colley. In neighboring Benin, political reactions have emerged following an attack by unidentified armed men that resulted in the deaths of nearly 10 soldiers. Opposition political parties have condemned the attack, which occurred in the northern part of the country, and urged President Patrice Talon's government to work together with neighboring states to effectively combat terrorism. Christopher Tichu has more in the following report.
The opposition party, the Democrats, is calling on the Beninese government to establish a joint force with Benin's neighboring countries, including Nigeria, Togo, Niger, and Burkina Faso. This initiative, according to the opposition political party, could be an effective way to combat terrorism. The party of former President Boni Yaye also calls on the government of Benin to engage in urgent and sincere consultations with neighboring countries. In the process, the Beninese political movement Labour, through a press release, condemns the latest terrorist attack in Benin, which left 8 deaths. According to Regis Hunkpe, a teacher of geopolitics, international relations, and strategic communications, the proposal of the opposition political parties is salutary.
The context of the security crisis currently facing Benin, especially with the attacks last July, is indeed concerning, in that Benin has once again lost a number that remains to be established. And on this, it is undeniable that beyond the emotion, which is normal and legitimate, we must quickly have all the forces that are concerned with the separate interest of the nation, which is trying to protect Benin, come together. At the same time, we must react through our strategies. So yes, indeed, it is not the common elements or mechanisms that are lacking.
Another reaction came from Nisefori Giordone Soglo. The former Beninese president denounced on his Facebook page, and I quote, "a cowardly, barbaric and unbearable attack," end of quote.
A report filed in by WADR's Adam Aziz Sule in Cotonou and voiced by Christopher Ticho. Meanwhile, in Guinea, major political parties are losing their leadership as several have recently aligned themselves with the ruling military regime. The leaders of these parties argue that they must not sideline themselves from the reconstruction process. These departures have been largely viewed as inconsequential by the former ruling party, the RPG, as well as the UFDG of Cellou Dalein Diallo. However, political analysts warn that this shift in allegiances could significantly weaken the affected parties in future elections. Political parties like the Union of Democratic Forces of Guinea and the RPG Rainbow now see their leaders supporting the ruling military, a situation that doesn't worry these political parties. As a reminder, several of these party executives were recently appointed to positions of responsibility by Guinea's interim president, General Mamadou Doumbouya. Elsewhere in Togo, the government has approved a new action plan for its national decentralization policy covering 2025 to 2034. Government officials validated the plan on April 15 in Kara. With new strategy, Lomé seeks to improve local governance and make local authorities key drivers of economic growth. Francis Boniface tells us more.
The major actions outlined in this decentralization plan are organized around 4 priority areas: strengthening local governance, improving the financing and autonomy of local authorities, effectively transferring state powers, and promoting citizen participation in managing local affairs. The plan also focuses on 3 main strategies to mobilize over 51 billion CFA francs for the next 5 years and aims to create local, inclusive and efficient governance by funding projects with a strong community impact. According to Gomado Kwame, the minister in charge of regional planning, this national document supports the government's vision for balanced development across all regions. This 5-year budgeted action plan is based on an assessment of decentralization process that began in Togo in 2016. After evaluating the progress made and the challenges that remain, local stakeholders came together to identify opportunities to effectively meet the needs of the population by 2034. As part of the Decentralization and Good Governance Program, the Togolese government seeks to enhance the capabilities of local actors and promote balanced territorial development through a concerted strategy and concrete actions. Some of these initiatives may receive financial and technical support from German cooperation agency GIZ.
Francis Boniface reporting. You are listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal, and live online on WADR.org. Here's a reminder of our top stories. President Mahama advocates for deeper diplomacy to strengthen regional ties as ECOWAS celebrates its 50th anniversary. Togo approves a new action plan for national centralization policy. Authorities in Burkina Faso foiled another coup attempt. Still ahead in the news, late Pope Francis to be laid to rest on Saturday, April 26. We also have the guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Many thanks for staying with us. And to some sad news, the late Pope Francis will be laid to rest on Saturday, April 26 at St. Peter's Square, while his body will be displayed for public viewing effective tomorrow, Wednesday, April 23, at the St. Peter's Basilica. The late Pope Francis died at age 88. The last appearance was on Sunday, April 20, with an Easter blessing and a Pope mobile tour through a cheering crowd in St. Peter's Square. He was the first Latin American pontiff to serve in the high office as Pope. His leadership is characterized by humility and a great concern for the poor and the environment. Cardinals earlier today, Tuesday, met at the Vatican to plan the conclave to elect his successor and to make other decisions about running the Catholic Church. Globally, tributes continue to pour in his honor. During the guest segment of the news, we shall look close up with Father Peter Lopez, Director of the Gambia Pastoral Institute, for an analysis of the legacy of Pope Francis and the challenges of his future successor. And to Nigeria now, a new report has been issued as a stark warning on the country's growing vulnerability to climate change, with experts predicting dire consequences if urgent action is not taken. The Nigeria Climate Impact Outlook, launched in Abuja, highlights the country's increasing exposure to extreme weather events and environmental degradation linked to rising global temperatures. Usman Umar reports.
The newly released Nigeria Climate Impact Outlook paints a troubling picture of the country's climate future. From intensified heat waves to shrinking water resources and deteriorating livelihoods, the report signals that Nigeria is edging dangerously close to a climate tipping point. Climate experts, researchers, and policymakers gathered in Abuja on Monday for the launch, urging immediate and sustained national efforts to mitigate the looming crisis. The report notes that Nigeria, despite its low contribution to global emissions, is among the most at-risk countries in sub-Saharan Africa. One of the experts at the event, Felicia Dairo, program manager at the Center for Journalism in Innovation and Development, emphasized the role of media and civil society in amplifying climate voices and pushing for stronger accountability mechanisms.
We haven't felt heat wave as much as we are feeling at the moment. So we need to continue to have this conversation about climate change and its impact, not just on us, but also on our economy.
The report recommends an overhaul of Nigeria's climate adaptation strategies, stressing the need for climate-resilient infrastructure, early warning systems, and inclusive public policies. As the nation braces for yet another hot season, stakeholders say the time for talking is over and the time for decisive action is now. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
The death of Pope Francis on Monday at the age of 88 has sparked deep emotion in Africa. Political and religious figures paid tributes to a figure who worked to consolidate peace throughout the world. Between 2013 and 2025, during his pontificate, he made 5 trips to Africa. He denounced corruption and economic colonialism and called for the protection of migrants. The pontiff distinguished himself geopolitically, but what will be the challenge of his future successor? Our guest, Father Peter Lopez, Director, Gambia Pastoral Institute, joins us with more.
Well, first of all, I think not only the church, but the whole world is saddened by the death of Pope Francis. You will recall in 2013, when he became Pope, the first thing he did was to show us the kind of Pope that he was going to be by taking the name Francis after St. Francis of Assisi. And St. Francis of Assisi, is a saint who is well known for option for the poor. And mercy also, mercy for those who are marginalized and those who are at the periphery of life. So from the very beginning, he gave us the hint that his papacy was going to be a little bit different. First of all, he didn't live in the Apostolic Palace. He decided to live in an apartment in Santa Marta, and that's where he died. So coming in as a pope, he is well known, first of all, in my own thinking. He's a pope for those who are less fortunate in life, and that is depicted in the many places that he went. Just before he died, on Thursday, Holy Thursday, he was at the prison. Usually he will go to the prison there in Rome to wash the feet of the prisoners during the Mass of the Lord's Supper. So he was really a pope who gave ears to those who were less fortunate, to migrants. In a very special way, the documents that he wrote, if you look at the document that he wrote, especially on the care of the environment and, things that people hardly will give a listening ear to, that was what interested Pope Francis.
Well, would you say that gave the connection between the late Pope and the black continent, the African continent? You talked about his interest in environment, his interest in migrant and, opening the doors for all. You talked about his concerns for the poor and the marginalized.
Yeah, he gave a preferential treatment to the African continent in a special way. He wrote a document about the African continent, if you can remember, Afriche Munus. Afriche Munus, that document spoke about this continent that has so much. He talks about the potential that the continent has, and that the continent has potential and is a force to be reckoned with. And the visits that he made, he came to West Africa, to Central Africa, South Africa during his short tenure. Pope John Paul II, St. Pope John Paul II spent 25 years as a pope and was able to go to far more countries than he did. But if you look at 2013 to, let's say, 2015, cardinals, the number of cardinals we have there who will be there at the conclave, this was all he's doing. So he really, again, gave the African continent, because you see, if you are talking about option to the poor, the poorest continent is Africa. So he really listened to Africans and made cardinal seats in dioceses that were not even cardinal seats. So his concentration on the African continent is really phenomenal.
Well, Father Lopez, there have been concerns and talks are flying around, especially with the fact that Africa may have the opportunity at that position. We've seen the cardinals from Guinea and Ghana now headlining discussions, the possibility of them or of Africa producing at least a pope. Do you see that happening?
Let me put it this way. It's only God who knows. But let me tell you, we have prominent cardinals there who will be in the conclave. Cardinal Peter Turkson of Ghana, known figure, not only in Africa, to deliver lectures. So he's also well known in the Americas. He's well known in Europe. Of course, he resides in the Vatican. He's a secretary in one of the dicasteries there in Rome. Now, talk about Cardinal Sarah. Cardinal Robert Sarah has written many books. One of the most prominent one is on silence. And he is well known, especially during the COVID, because he was the cardinal prefect of the dicastery that looked after the liturgy of the Roman Catholic Church. And he's well known also among his peers, among his colleagues there in Rome. So these are two forces going for the African continent. Well, if God wills, we can, but you will never know. There are also other prominent cardinals from other continents, but these are two figures that are well known, not only in the Africa. They are Africans, yes. Cardinal Sarah is from West Africa. He's not far from us here. He comes from Guinea. He's from Conakry. And then Peter Turkson from Ghana. Maybe the one from Nigeria because of age. Yes. Now he's of age. But these are wonderful cardinals who can possibly become popes, and that would be great for this continent that has, I think, the highest number of Catholics now, and growing is found in the African continent. So it will be a boost if an African becomes a pope. The faith will just spring. As an African speaking to you, I will be more than delighted to see an African pope.
Father Peter Lopez, Director of Gambia Pastoral Institute. Up next is sports news with Sankule Janko.
South Africa will begin their CAF African Schools Football Championship title defense when the tournament kicks off tomorrow, Wednesday. This comes after the Confederation of African Football CAF conducted the draw on Monday. Accra's University of Ghana Stadium is hosting the third edition of the tournament, where 8 nations in both the boys and girls under 15 age categories will contest the finals between 23 to 26 April 2025. And the girls under 15 draw host Ghana are paired in Group A alongside Morocco, Benin and Malawi. Champions South Africa begin their title defense in a tough Group B against Uganda, DR Congo and the Gambia. The boys under 15 draw produce equally exciting fixtures in both the groups. Host Ghana are drawn against Uganda, South Africa and Algeria. Group B comprises defending champions Tanzania together with Senegal, debutants Cote d'Ivoire and DR Congo. Elsewhere, Ghana club Asante Kotoko has announced the appointment of former Ghana under-20 head coach Karim Zito as the club's new technical director. Kotoko confirmed his appointment earlier today in an official statement. Zito, who led Ghana to CAF under-20 Africa Cup of Nations triumph in 2021, will replace Proper Nate Ogun, who was recently dismissed. Karim Zito, who is currently with Dreams FC, led the club to CAF Confederation Cup semi-finals and Ghana to the CAF under-20 Africa Cup of Nations title in 2021.
Sports was brought to you by Sankule Janko. And with that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Maojo Juve and Umuda Nyogo for the technical support. Do interact with us via social media platforms, X, Instagram at WADR English, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. I am Abdullahi Hassan. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Niba County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Baga, Liberia, Radio Gulf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.
WADR. You can listen to us on 94.9 FM in Dakar through our website www.wadr.org.
I am an actor in civil society. I promote democracy and good governance. I must work tirelessly to ensure that the principles of transparency, fairness, and equality in the management of public affairs are respected.
This message is from West Africa Democracy Radio with support from the